It's Alessio here from what is an uncharacteristically sunny afternoon in London. I have here with us today Cedric Gemehl, who is the Gavekal specialist in European risk. He joins us kindly today out of France, and he will be talking to us about the upcoming French elections. So thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Great. So for the benefit of our viewers who haven't followed the story too well, so maybe you can probably give us a quick recap of how the French electoral system works, who are the main three candidates, what are the likely outcomes, and what they each stand for.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Well, let me start with how the French presidential systems work and how the election voting system works. In France, we have a two-round voting system. So this basically means that the two highest ranked candidates in the first round face in a runoff in the second round. And this is very important to have in mind because this has kept so far extreme candidates like Le Pen from the National Front, the far right, to get into elected position, because in the second round, when there is an extreme candidate facing a more centrist candidate, most voters tend to fall down on the centrist candidate. Now, what about the main candidate? Today, we have three main candidates. We have Marine Le Pen, that you probably heard about. She is running on an anti-immigration platform, a quite patriotic platform. But above all, she wants to leave Europe. And today, she is falling ahead at 24%. Then, neck and neck with Marine Le Pen, we have Emmanuel Macron, who is an independent centrist, kind of a progressist guy running on a pro-business platform, who is also falling at 24%. And then we have former favorite François Fillon, who is a candidate of the Republican Party, which is the center-right party in France, who has been embattled in tumultuous judiciary issues and has fallen in the poll down to around 19% recently. And he still has a chance, but he has gotten kind of compromise by all of these judiciary issues, and he's going at 19%. And it will be the more Thatcherist, reformist kind of candidate. So today, my baseline for the French election is that we get Marine Le Pen in the second round, which is already a big issue, but she will face either Emmanuel Macron or François Fillon, likely to be defeated because, as I was saying previously, the two-round system makes it very difficult for a extreme party like National Front to get elected. So in the second round, most voters will likely go and vote for whoever is the most centrist candidate we have in facing Marine Le Pen.
Okay, great. So here's a question which I've been asked myself a few times, which is, what are the main differences between the Brexit and Trump phenomena and the risk of Marine Le Pen being elected?
Well, actually, this is a very good question. This is a question we get very often from our foreign clients not based in France, and mainly from the Anglo-Saxon clients. So I understand that when you are not based in France, you look at France from abroad, and it's very easy to associate what happened in the UK with Brexit, what happened with Trump in the US, with what could happen in France with Marine Le Pen. But I think when you are here sitting in France, you can see a few differences worth highlighting. The first one is, as I was saying in the previous statements, the two-round system, which makes it very, very difficult for extreme party to get elected into elected position. The second differences would be the weight of history, because Brexit and Trump were relatively new phenomenon. Marine Le Pen, the National Front, and generally the Le Pen family, they have been involved in French politics for the last 3 to 4 decades. So they are nothing new, and they have always been associated with sort of a xenophobic and racist undertone, which most French voters don't like. And although Marine Le Pen has tried to soften the party stance on that front, and notably by kicking out her father from the party, the fact is that today most French voters remain very allergic to the National Front. And this brings me to maybe a third difference, which is polls. Well, polls currently suggest that Marine Le Pen will be defeated, but as most of our clients told us, they also failed to predict Brexit, to predict Trump. So what's the main difference today? Well, if you remember, just before Brexit, polls were given Brexit at 48%, if my memory serves me well. For Trump, it was more 46 to 47%. All polls is facing in the second round, there's sort of a glass ceiling around 40 to 45%. And this glass ceiling is actually explained by what I was saying previously about the weight of history, about the Truman presidential system. And Le Pen to be elected, polls would have to be wrong by a much wider margin than they were wrong for Brexit and Trump.
Okay, understood. So here's a question, why has Macron emerged as one of the front runners, in your opinion?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can see at least 3 factors explaining why Macron has emerged as a front runner. New faces are in demand in this election, and we have very clearly seen that during the primary, both the candidates of the left and the right. If you think like 1 year back, we have expected maybe former President Nicolas Sarkozy to run, or current President François Hollande to run, but the primary system just wipes them out of the picture. So we have new guys such as coming over. The second factor, I would say that he's not your traditional French politician. You know, he went to a big school, then he worked in private banking, then he worked a bit for the government. But today he resigned from all of his duties, so he's totally free to go, and most of his rivals are not. Third, and this is also a very, very important reason, he's definitely benefiting from the collapse of the left and the collapse of François Fillon campaign, which is basically giving him a boulevard in the center to run his platform of an independent centrist.
Great. So next question is, if Le Pen wins, what is the roadmap to take France out of the euro?
Oh, this is a very tough question. First of all, let me highlight that if Marine Le Pen is elected, this means that France, which is one of the founding countries of the Eurozone, elect presidents that want to take France out of the euro. So this would trigger a massive action, not only on French and European market, but also pretty much everywhere around the world, because today the euro is the second largest world reserve currency, and there are roughly 16,000 billion euro denominated pound out there. So this will be massive, and we don't really know what will happen. That being said, if we look at what we know today, there is no legal basis to leave the euro. So the only way Marine Le Pen can take France out of the euro is to take France out of the European Union, triggering Article 50, the Article 50 procedure, just as the UK done last month. It won't be easy because it's written in the French Constitution that France is part of the European Union, which means that Marine Le Pen will have to change the Constitution. And she has indicated that she wants to hold a referendum on Brexit. So this would have to be a constitutional referendum, which is provided for by Article 89 of the French Constitution, which clearly states that the president can only initiate such a constitutional referendum proposal that has already been passed by the parliament. And it is unlikely to have, even if she is elected, a majority in parliament. So the only option basically she would have to take France out of the euro is to organize a non-constitutional referendum. I hope that the French people vote to go, which, according to the information we have today, they don't want, because surveys of opinion show that around 70% of the French population currently support having the euro as French currency. Yeah, just to conclude, there is, we can think today about this path for Marine Le Pen to take France out of the euro, but as you can see, she would face many hurdles.
Okay, great. And so the last candidate, François Fillon, and so he's been indicted. And is there any risk that this might affect either the outcome or the timing of the presidential election?
Well, I don't think so. Well, the constitution that the French constitutional court can postpone the election if one of the main candidates is impeached. But today, Fillon has been indicted, but in France we have what we call the presumption of innocence, which means that the defender remains innocent until the trial. Today, I don't see any legal basis for the constitutional court to postpone the election.
Okay, great. So how important are the legislative elections in June?
Oh, they are not very regarded today because most of people focus on the presidential election. It's important because under the Fifth Republic in France, the president is strong as long as he is supported by a majority in parliament. And as of today, none of the candidates is able to claim that he will secure a majority in the legislative election. So after the presidential election, even if Marine Le Pen is not elected, this does not mean that France is out of trouble, because whoever is the next president will have a difficult time to form a majority in parliament.
Okay, great. Moving on to markets, are there any asset classes or sectors that you feel would benefit from the election of any particular candidates? Kind of similar to what happened in the US after the election of Donald Trump.
Yeah, actually, I've been asked that question before, and I came to the conclusion that thinking about the French elections the way one thought about Trump in the US election is misleading, because what is at stake in the French election is simply the integrity of the Eurozone as a currency area. So when you look at the details of everything that is occurring, there is really no one sector that would clearly emerge as a winner. But if so is avoided, then the euro survives, and this simply gives room to the ongoing very nice cyclical economic recovery in Europe to proceed. And this will benefit all euro assets. On the other hand, if Marine Le Pen is elected, well, this simply means that the process of European integration that began with Brexit is carrying on, and this will be very negative for euro assets in the short term.
Okay, great. So finally, beyond the French elections, what are the risks, either positive or negative, do you see for Europe in 2017?
Well, I'm actually quite optimistic about Europe economic and financial this year, and especially about European stocks, because as I just said, we have now a very convincing economic recovery in Europe. You know, it's now spreading to France and Italy, which lagged the recovery for years. It's spreading to an even greater number of sectors, and this is a recovery becoming self-sustaining. Now, the huge caveat is, of course, the political outcome in France. But if Marine Le Pen is not elected, then we get either François Fillon or Emmanuel Macron, who are both running on pro-business platform. So this would, in a sense, the appetite for structural reform in France, with one important consequences in the relationship with Germany, because Germany also has a big election in next September. If German Chancellor is able to come into a ring, say, okay, even the French are conduct structural reform, I think that we can maybe become a bit more rationalist and, just agree more fiscal spending, maybe not stop that sniping on the ECB policy, act a little less tough on Greece. And this will definitely Frankfurt German axis would be good for your area.
Okay, excellent. So potentially the positive catalyst for Europe could be the German elections this year.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, I think that's about it. We're out of time. Thanks very much, Cedric, for joining us. Cedric from Gavekal Research. You're welcome. And so we have a couple of days off. On Friday, which is a holiday in Europe, we have Mark Sandy, who is Chief Economist of Moody's on. For those of you who are so keen to join us, please join us around the same time. Otherwise, take care and have a nice day. Bye.